Hey guys, welcome once again to the Guy Blog Podcast. As always, your host Orlando Rodriguez, and today we're going to be talking about the latest UFC with Tony Ferguson versus Kevin Lee and Demetrious Johnson versus Ray Borg. Now, this is the post-fight. That was freaking amazing. It's very rare that you see two co-main events really live up to everything that you expect them to be. But not only that, to have Demetrious Johnson basically have the opportunity to make history, and it's not often at all, it's rarely the case, where you see somebody with the opportunity to make history and do it in a way that actually surpasses expectations. Yet, that's what happened. Now, let's talk about the main event, because I'm going to leave Demetrious for talk about it in a second. Tony Ferguson versus Kevin Lee was hyped up as a great match. Kevin Lee was hyped up to be ready for this level of fight. And Tony Ferguson was just looking for a fight. Any fight versus anybody that would get him close to or get him to an actual championship fight. And that's what he got with Kevin Lee, so obviously he took it. This was really an interesting matchup, and to see somebody that's burgeoning and growing but still very young at 25 in Kevin Lee coming up versus somebody that's on a 9-fight win streak, that's very unorthodox, that's very, as everybody likes to call him, very weird, very strange style that's unique to Tony Ferguson, that nobody else can really plan for it. I would say that despite the loss, Kevin Lee does gain points, and he will come out of this fight a better fighter. The same can be said for Ray Borg, but we'll get to that in a second. Kevin Lee put up a great fight. He did some things great, but he was not ready for what championship level, main event level fighting is. Meaning, he wasn't ready for the level of talent, the level of preparation, nor was he ready for what El Cucuy brings. Not to mention 5 rounds being a completely different type of fight than a 3-round battle. We saw him gas right after, midway through the second. By the end of it, he was already tired. The way that the fight ended, some people might say that, you know, somebody fighting at that level should not be submitted there, but Kevin Lee did not give up that fight. I don't think he quit on that fight. I don't think he was looking for a way out, per se. I do think he was not prepared to fight at that level, at that pace, for that long. And that somebody like Cucuy, somebody like Ferguson, wears on a fighter as the fight goes on. He gets them more tired, not only physically but also mentally and psychologically. When things are not working, when you think you have somebody finished and you don't, and they keep coming at you, that can be draining if you're not used to that. If you're not used to a 5-round battle versus guys that can go the full 25 minutes non-stop. So it'll be a growing experience. All the credit in the world to Kevin Lee, because after the fight he did the right thing. He made no excuses. As soon as it sounded like he might be making one, he made sure to clarify and say that Tony Ferguson deserves all the credit in the world and deserves the title, and just handled himself like a professional. So kudos to him. Congratulations to Tony Ferguson. Amazing fight. It was fun. It was classic Tony Ferguson. The only chink in his armor is just he lets himself get hit a little too much. He leaves his chin out there, something he shouldn't be doing. But great fight. Definitive champion, or at least at that level. Interim champion until McGregor comes back, but he should fight McGregor. Having said that, let's talk about the co-main event that should have been the main event. you have somebody in Demetrious Johnson that's going to do, or at least try to surpass Anderson Silva's record. Once your name is getting mentioned with Anderson Silva, with GSP, fighters of that ilk that have had longevity, that have had great runs that lasted for years, once your name is there with them, it's really an honor, and it says a lot about the fighter. The fact that you're there and you have the opportunity to surpass some of the things that they did, that's even better. So to see Mighty Mouse get this opportunity is great. Just the fact that he, rolled off 10 in a row, amazing championship fights. It's just amazing. In MMA, anything can happen. We saw that on this night, and yet Demetrious, night after night, has been able to dominate. And the best part of all is, in a fight where Demetrious Johnson, going into the 5th round, is guaranteed a victory as long as he doesn't do anything at all, that he's dominated, 172 to 26 was the punch score. It's just ridiculous. The punch count, that's just ridiculous. Did not get hit at all, was never in any serious danger, and yet to end the fight he decides to go for a suplex into an armbar, something that, from everything I've heard and at least from my experience, have never seen or heard of in MMA or Jiu-Jitsu. And then after the fight, to explain how he did it, and in the post-fight interview, how he set it up, how he did it, how it's planned, and how it's something that he practices regularly. That is crazy. Have Joe Rogan, kudos to Joe Rogan for going out of his way and making sure to sound the alarm, let people become aware that Demetrious Johnson is the pound for pound best fighter in the world, bar none, no matter the weight class. He does everything perfectly. Everything is methodical. Everything is technique based. He doesn't force anything in the octagon. He doesn't have to do anything crazy. And by how he finished the fight and being able to explain that he planned to finish it that way at that point, tells you nothing happens by mistake. Demetrious Johnson, for anybody that steps into the octagon with him, he goes in there playing chess. Everybody else is playing dominoes. Not even checkers, not even, I don't care. They're just playing a whole different game than he is. And it's amazing to watch, but it's even more amazing that as they criticize him for not finishing fights, he's become a finisher. And what a way to finish. What a way to break a record. I mean, for all the haters out there, Demetrious has fought everybody they've put in front of him. He's cleaned out his division, and I read some comments and was going back and forth with a couple of people talking about, the talent that he's faced isn't that great. Well, that's not his fault. That's the UFC's fault. That's Dana White's fault. It's their responsibility to get the people in his division. They were unable to. That's what DJ's supposed to do. And for people that say, he wouldn't fight TJ, or he wouldn't fight Dominic, or he wouldn't fight Cody, I say to you, how many fighters that are champions, that are on a winning streak, half as long, if you can find one, as DJ, would be called trash or would be called anything but the best because they need to fight people in a division that is not their own? I've never seen that. Basically by saying Demetrious Johnson, Mighty Mouse, is not the best because he hasn't faced the best, because he hasn't faced TJ or Cody or Dominic, what you're saying is he's not the best because he hasn't fought people that don't even fight in his division. That's ridiculous. That's a non-starter. That does not make sense. So give the man the respect he deserves. I mean, wow, what a fight. It was great, as it always is, but that ending You will not see that in MMA from anybody else for a long time. You know, unless Mighty Mouse decides to do it again. It's just crazy. And his next fight can be, you know, Pettis, could be Benavidez, could be Cejudo, or it could be Cody, Dominic, or TJ. Whoever he fights next, doesn't matter. He's in the history books. Fight is bound to be interesting. It's just, I can't say enough about this, and I hope that this becomes a turning point for Demetrious Johnson, for his career, and for the MMA world and landscape to start recognizing one of its great champions historically, and start appreciating him while he is still active and while he is still peaking. That's all that I got to say on that. Something that I do want to get into really quickly was Kevin Lee crying. And I saw a lot of people criticizing Kevin Lee online, making fun of him for crying. And if you have a problem with Kevin Lee crying, you're not a real MMA fan. Because as a real MMA fan, I want fighters that care that much about wins and losses. I do think that it's a moment to appreciate what this fighter is bringing to the table, and to appreciate that this fighter is giving it his or her all, and that's what they did, and that they care that much. So when it comes to Kevin Lee crying, I don't see anything wrong with it as a fan, as somebody that cares about the sport, and as somebody that's in it to watch the very best fight. So if you feel that badly about it, I would say just watch another sport where they don't care about wins and losses, because that's not the case here. Kudos to Kevin Lee for giving it his all. That just tells me, him crying, that he's going to go back to the drawing board, give it his best, and improve, and we will see a better version of Kevin Lee next time. As always, this is Orlando for the Guy Blog. Guys, take care, comment, subscribe, follow on Instagram and Twitter, and as always, talk to you soon.